Let's face it, J.S. Bach here has a little bit of a reputation, not only as being one of the greatest composers to ever walk the planet, but especially amongst his piano players, of being one of the most frustratingly difficult composers to play his music. And really the epitome of the doesn't sound difficult but is insanely hard to play pieces are Bach's fugues. Now, a lot of you will shudder if I even say the word fugue, or maybe inventions if you played those only. And I want this video to kind of serve as a step-by-step guide for how you should learn these pieces. But before I tell you the right way to do it, I'm going to demonstrate the wrong way to do it. So here is me sight reading Bach's fugue number 15 from the first book of the WTC in G major. This is when you always think, it's going to be so easy, and you start way too fast and then regret it later. This isn't hard. Ooh, seventh, so hard. Again, this is me demonstrating what you should not do, so don't do this. Okay, so that's what you should not do, because the fugues and inventions as well, but especially the fugues, are incredibly complicated, sophisticated pieces with 3 or 4 or maybe 5 voices all happening at the same time. So they are way harder to sight read than your average piece. It's easier to sight read Beethoven, maybe has a melody, a fast scale melody, and a crazy chord accompaniment. That's easier to quickly kind of digest than trying to keep track of, in this case, 3 different individual parts at the same time. So that actually leads right to step 1. Before you try to play a fugue, get to know the theme. Don't try to play it hands together. Don't butcher it like I just did. Take a little time and make sure you know and you fall in love with that theme of the fugue when it's just one voice. And you know what? If you start that step and you decide after doing this for a while, maybe a couple of days of falling in love, that you don't like the theme, don't play the fugue, because the theme is going to happen like 100 times. Like, don't even bother. Like, fall in love with this theme first and let me show you. Here's just the theme. That's a great jump there. Oh, I love that already. That's going to help me for the rest of this piece. If I can not just go, this is my not paying attention face, by the way. I'm just playing notes. I'm going to think about, that's cool. So it goes down and then leaps over the top. In fact, it leaps over one note from where that started. B, C. I'm making connections. That's going to, I'm sure, come back later. I've never played this piece. I'm assuming it'll come back later. Then we have this one. You do it again from the B, but then you go higher. And then we have this little passage. And that's how it ends. So that is my subject. If I don't kind of fall in love with that and decide how I want to play that first, nothing else will make sense. One of the key aspects of making a fugue sound good is that you get a subject. You figure out how you want to play the subject with detached legato notes and all that stuff. Leaps, do you want to make legato leaps? Probably not. You want to play separate leaps. Figure out all that stuff first. And then when you see that subject like 5 or 6 or 7 times throughout the piece, you're going to apply those same articulations, are you going to connect it, not connect it, play what notes louder and softer. You're going to apply that every single time that subject comes back. And that leads us right to step 2. Now I'm kind of going fast for this. I should have spent longer on step 1, but I'm not actually going to learn this entire fugue for this video because the video would be several weeks long. Does that make sense? So I'm going to go through the steps. The next thing you got to do is not just start where the hands come in together and go, cool, let me learn the next section, and then suffer through these notes. No, you got to find where the subject enters a second time in the next voice. So when you see those 2 voices at the same time, don't play them at the same time. Don't even start that way. Just ask yourself which one's the melody, which one has our subject. Well, there's 2 parts here. In measure 5, the top part goes like this. That's not our main tune. The bottom part goes like this. That's it. So what I'm going to do next is make sure I know how that subject sounds here. I also am going to try to figure out if it does any adjustments. I'm going to do this. That's exactly the same. I'm starting on a different note. That's part of the sophistication of fugues, is you're going to enter a 5th higher. But it's all the same, accounting for the 5th jump. Here's that thing I just told you about. F sharp. one note higher, I told you that's going to come back later. So that little thing I planted in my brain of, oh, this thing here, when I have it here. If it does what it did earlier, it will go, nope. Yeah. So like I said, I've never played this piece. I'm just trying to quickly make connections in my mind. So I'm not necessarily going to try to play this from memory in 5 minutes. I'm not that crazy. But I am making connections. The first time we did again and went a third higher. And I'm going to ask myself, it's the same thing. Yes. Exact same thing. We work our way back down. Isn't that nice? Isn't that just like a pretty little tune there? So what you're going to do as part of step 2 is get a pencil out or a highlighter if you have a bad edition, you don't care to mark up. I have nice editions of the Fugues, Henley of them, so I'm not going to use a highlighter in here, but I would grab a pencil and I would mark where that subject enters. Actually, at the top of this score, it says 3 voice fugues. That means we should expect 3 parts at the same time. We had the subject once. Look at the top part. We're going to call it soprano. It's a top part. Bach wrote another subject also in the treble clef, but below the top parts, we're going to call it the alto. So I would encourage you to literally mark that in your score from the very beginning where that subject entered in measure 5 to the last note of the subject. Now, okay, honestly, I might have lied a little bit. I don't know if I'd actually mark it in my music, but I would definitely make a mental note and know exactly that was the melody and it ends there. There's no chance in the world I get to measure 6 and be like, oh, which one of these 2 notes is the melody? There's no way. I would 100% know before I dive into this piece. The bottom note, that alto, is the melody. And if that helps you to mark it with a pencil, please do so. Most students actually does really help. Now I'm simply going to scan and say, where's the next entrance? Boom. A couple measures later. There we go. And this would be the tenor or the bass. It doesn't really matter what you call it because it's the one. There's only 3 voice fugue. If there were 2 parts in the left hand, you could call one tenor and one bass, but it doesn't matter what you refer to it as. Right now, it's in the range of a tenor. We'll see if that slightly more in the range of a tenor, but maybe it's a bass. It doesn't really matter. Again, there's only one left hand part. But know that, okay, this is a 3 voice fugue. The first thing that's going to happen in every 3 voice fugue is we're going to get a subject, the main thing. We're going to do it again at the 5th. We start on G, we're going to start on D. Then the third one has to enter back on G. Boom, it does. When this finishes, we now have all our subjects have been introduced. So knowing a little bit of the structure of a fugue, now I can say, cool, I'm going to play the subjects real quick for you. So literally this piece, this is the tune I'm going to bring out. Alto takes over. There's 2 measures of nothing. Well, there is notes, but no subjects. And then tenor, bass comes in. I want to take a second here just to emphasize again that if you have the ability or the skill level to play a fugue, this step 2, might be one of the most important things. It's so easy to overlook, but it's just completely deranged, complete waste of time to learn an entire fugue. I know people who do this and they always regret it, but they just, I'll just learn the notes. I'll worry about the subjects. I'll worry about finding the subjects and that stuff later, whatever. Right? It's not that important. I'll figure that out. I'll be musical later. They have this kind of idea that they'll just learn the notes, be musical later. So they learn an entire fugue, like what I'm doing right now, weeks and weeks and weeks of notes, just trying to plow through them. And then what happens is, after they've learned all these notes, after they get through all the notes and all the rhythm, they can play it up to decent tempo. They try to start bringing out the subjects, and they have to go find them. And after they find them, sometimes they have to relearn measures because they didn't learn the measures with the right emphasis, or they didn't even learn them with any emphasis. So they're trying to find where's that tune in there, and they have to go really slow and often re-speed the piece back up from a slow tempo. And then even worse than that, there are times that, let's say, for example, we want to do this. Let's say that's how you decide to play the subject. You're going to decide something. There's a lot of different reasons. We're not going to get into how you should interpret. There are some really good pieces of advice about that. But let's say you choose to make it slur. Then you want to jump to there. Then you play the whole piece and you just say, I'll figure out the subjects later. And you do measures of it with a fingering that will make it impossible for you to do that jump. Absolutely impossible for you to do that jump. When I have to relearn to measure with different fingering, maybe a different hand has to take a note in the center or something, it's just a complete waste of time. Go through the entire piece and find subjects first. Okay, with that being said, we're going to continue on and try to find more subjects here. So I'm just going to kind of quickly scan the piece. After the 3 subjects enter, we're expecting in like a kind of a period of time where maybe there's like some sequences. There might not be a main tune for a little bit. But what I'm doing here, I'm just going to kind of scan the piece and look for this. And I'm looking for that kind of motive. When I see it, I'm going to say, cool, there it is. And I will continue to mark the subjects. Now, we probably won't for the rest of the piece have an entire entrance of all 3 subjects in 3 different voices in a row again. Now they're just going to kind of come and go in different keys. That's kind of the structure of a fugue. Is first you have all 3 enter, so all 3 voices. Imagine there's 3 different instruments like a violin and a viola and a cello playing this together. All 3 would have their chance to enter, and now we're just going to do different keys, and Bach is going to give this subject 2 different parts as we go along here. So I'm just scanning for that subject. I'm scanning. I'm still scanning. I see something. Ooh, I might have to actually learn this piece. Do you hear what just happened there? I found the subject, but it was upside down. That's one of my favorite things for fugues to do. So instead of, we got, yeah, that's nice. But yeah, definitely mark that subject. I practice that subject. I get really good at that one. Again, I'm going to kind of skip through some of these steps. This video is not going to be weeks and weeks long. We learn this whole piece, but you want to get really good at that subject. This is an inverted subject. Just a subject and flipped it. And you notice I'm leaving out the trills. So I'm really just trying to get the sense of how the subject goes. And then I see another one. We do it again, invert it. Then we just keep going. Here's another one here. Ooh. So what we just do there, this is actually fascinating. I should totally play this piece. It's so cool. How did I not know about this one? So we had our subject. We did all 3. Then we had 2 inverted subjects. And now the inverted ones were kind of a different key too. But now we have a normal one, but we're in minor now. Oh, that's so cool. So now we're learning this piece. So as we go along, now I know, hey, here, measure 38. We're going to have an E minor version of this subject. Okay, so I think you get the point. Go through the piece, mark all the subjects, make sure you can play every single subject because you need to know what that subject is. So when you're learning this piece and doing the next step of the piece, I'm about to tell you right now, you're doing the next step. As you see these subjects, you know what you're bringing out and how you're playing those subjects. Now, step 3 is way easier said than done, but you're just going to begin to put the hands together. Now, I have a few pieces of advice for you. Don't just undo all your hard work of finding subjects and learning the right way to play them and falling in love with them and just go, and then don't do that. Take some time and go, okay, so we have our first one, whatever. Starting at measure 5, though, I have this. What's my other voice doing during that time? See, you notice I didn't even try to do 5 measures at once. I'm just 1 measure. What's my other voice doing? Well, the soprano's going. That's kind of pretty. All right, so I'm going to put those together. Again, keep in mind I've never played this piece before, but that's pretty. But now I'm going to think that I bring the subject out. That's what I want. Yeah, and then we're going to kind of go on a little bit. What's this hat doing? That's kind of complicated. So we have, that's our jump. I gotta make sure I do. So I'm gonna say, wait. I just played that wrong. You probably caught me. Maybe you didn't catch me. But before I said I was going to do the slur, I don't know if I would actually do that if I played this piece. That's what I'm going to do for right now to give you an example. If that's the decision I made, I cannot then go. but I gotta do my slur. So I'm figuring this stuff out from the very beginning. I'm not going to play this wrong for 3 weeks, which a lot of you would do. And I'm just being real, right? A lot of people would just do it wrong for weeks and weeks and weeks and then say, oh, I'll just try to fix it later. Like, don't waste your time. Do it right now. I don't want to attach the right hand sound. I like the right hand doing this. It's a nice, very Baroque sounding thing. So I'm going to keep the detached here and legato down here. And that's nice because that will help you hear the subject. You're going to hear two different articulations. You're going to hear that's still holding. I don't know if I brought that out enough. And this is the thing that makes the fugues truly difficult, is trying to not only play all the notes and get 3 different voices, -4, -5, going at the same time, but also keeping them true to what you want to do. From the very beginning, I'm trying to get the articulation, all the first step 1, learning the subject, falling in love with it. Step 2, finding the subject throughout the piece so you'll learn the structure, what's going on. All that's leading to step 3, putting them together, actually being efficient. Now here's a few tips for you. Notice that I'm not saying learn hands separately. Please do not hear me saying that. You might say, oh, Ryan's saying we should learn all the hands separately for the fugue. You might have to learn separately and then put it together, but I don't want you to think about fugues as much as right hand, left hand, but think about them as voices. So for example, when you get to measure 11, there are 3 voices going on. You could learn this hand separately, but I actually kind of want to know while the left hand's doing this. I really don't like my legato choice, but I'm going to stick with it for the duration of this video because that's why I said I'm going to do it at the beginning. You can totally change your decisions. You don't have to make one decision while filming a video, in the middle of the night and then stick with it for the rest of your life. I just want to keep it consistent for the purpose of this video. But the right hand there actually starts getting 2 parts. Now, rather than saying I got to learn right hand separately than left hand, I'm actually going to take some time and use both hands for those 2 parts to learn how they go. We're going to have So I'm not just thinking, gotta learn the right hand, gotta learn the left hand, but I'm like, what are the individual parts doing? The alto is going. That's all. So this is going to be. Another tip that can be helpful just to understand what's going on musically is sometimes play 2 of the 3 voices. So using that same example right there, while my left hand's doing this, I could play just the alto. Or I could play just a soprano, like. All right, do let me know down in the comments below if you're also interested by this piece. I think it's really cool. So if you want me to try to work on this and get like an update video sometime in the future, I could possibly do that. Let me know if that would interest you down in the comments. Because if I do learn this piece, it's a fugue. It'll be a lot of work and there will be definitely tears and crying involved. But hopefully that gives you a guide, not just on how to play fugue number 15 in G major, but just your general approach when you play inventions, really, sinfonias, or fugues by Bach. Like, how should you go about even approaching them from the first place so you don't just have to undo all your hard work and weeks of labor just to keep changing things and fixing things as you go along. Get it right as much as you can from the beginning. Learn the subject, fall in love, find every single time that subject shows up, whether it's flipped, inverted, whatever, and then start slowly putting hands together.